clearly are in a multipolar world today, where the United States, China, Russia, and arguably other countries, India, another, and I would say Europe, if it could ever get its act together, but it does not currently have its act together, would be another, now compete for power, but without norms, without a shared vision. And indeed, I would say in a world in which the West, meaning the U.S.-led world, is rather desperately trying to keep its primacy or its hold on power over China, Russia, and the BRICS countries more generally. So that's a lot of disruption. Add in the fact that we have climate disasters everywhere, an inconvenient point that is brushed aside by many, for example, by Trump and others, because it just doesn't fit other narratives, but is extraordinarily real. Even China in Beijing experienced massive loss of life in recent days from extreme flooding. The events in Los Angeles of massive forest fires earlier this year are among the largest measured catastrophes in terms of damages and losses that we've ever seen. This is happening all over the world. So the world is filled with disruption, and at the same time, the quality of leadership in the West is dismal. Donald Trump is an unstable, unpredictable, not merely transactional, but I would say person without any longer-term perspective, leading the United States right now. Europe is clearly without any leadership whatsoever. It's in a state progressively of open collapse politically. Ursula von der Leyen is a disgrace, and we saw this with the most recent so-called trade negotiations between Europe and the United States, where Europe just basically accepted U.S. diktats. And so with the Western leadership terrible, with Donald Trump filled with the delusions of U.S. power, with the rapid disruptions in technology, environment, in geopolitics, in economics all over the world, with the spread of nuclear weapons, with the local, but not so local, I should say, absolute disasters such as Israel's genocide in Gaza, aided and abetted by the United States and Europe. All of this adds up to extraordinary instability and extraordinary danger.
You just heard Dr. Jeffrey Sachs, economist, Columbia professor, and one of the few voices in the American elite willing to speak truth, deliver a devastating diagnosis. We clearly are in a multipolar world today, but without norms, without a shared vision. And worse, the West isn't adapting. It's not building cooperation. It's not solving global crises. Instead, it's clinging to power, desperately, recklessly, and destructively. And while the planet burns, while wars rage, while climate disasters multiply, the so-called leaders of the West offer nothing but delusion, incompetence, and complicity. Let's unpack what Sachs said, and why this moment may be the most dangerous in modern history. Sachs begins with a fact that most Western media still ignores. The unipolar moment is over. The United States no longer rules the world. It never truly did. But for a brief period after 1991, it could pretend it did. Now that illusion has shattered. We live in a multipolar world, where China, Russia, India, and the BRICS bloc are rising powers with their own interests, alliances, and visions. And the U.S.? It's not adjusting. It's not negotiating. It's not cooperating. It's trying to preserve its dominance by force, through sanctions, military pressure, and regime change. But that strategy is failing, because the rest of the world is no longer afraid. They see American weakness. They see economic decline. They see political chaos. And they're building alternatives, from new financial systems to independent trade networks. Even Europe could be a player, if it ever got its act together. But it hasn't, and it won't. Because Europe isn't a leader. It's a vassal. Sachs makes a critical point, one that cuts through the noise. Climate disasters are everywhere, and they're being brushed aside. Why? Because acknowledging the climate crisis would require massive systemic change, something the Western elite is unwilling to do. Trump denies it. The media downplays it. And European leaders treat it as a photo op issue, not an existential emergency. But the planet doesn't care about politics. Look at Beijing, recently devastated by catastrophic flooding that killed hundreds and displaced millions. Look at Los Angeles, where wildfires burned through entire neighborhoods, causing billions in damage, among the worst in recorded history. And it's not just China or California. From Pakistan's floods to Europe's heat waves, from Australia's fires to Africa's droughts, the climate crisis is here. But instead of acting, the West doubles down on fossil fuels, war, and endless consumption. They'd rather bomb Yemen than fix the planet. They'd rather fund regime change than renewable energy. And they call others irresponsible. Sachs doesn't hold back. The quality of leadership in the West is dismal. And he's right. Start with Donald Trump. He's not just transactional. He's unstable, unpredictable, and without any long-term vision. He doesn't govern, he performs. He doesn't lead, he provokes. And he still believes the U.S. can dominate the world, even as that power slips away. But Trump isn't alone. Europe is leaderless, politically fractured, economically dependent, strategically irrelevant. And at the top, Ursula von der Leyen, whom Sachs calls a disgrace. And recent events prove it, like when the EU bent the knee to the U.S. in so-called trade negotiations, accepting American demands without a fight. No negotiation, no resistance, just submission. That's not diplomacy. That's colonial-style obedience. And it shows how far Europe has fallen. Sachs delivers one of his most damning lines. We saw this with the absolute disaster such as Israel's genocide in Gaza, aided and abetted by the United States and Europe. Let that sink in. He doesn't say conflict. He doesn't say war. He calls it what it is. Genocide. And he's not alone. The International Court of Justice has acknowledged the plausible risk of genocide. The UN has warned of collective punishment. And yet, the US and Europe keep sending weapons, funding, and diplomatic cover. They don't care about Palestinian lives. They care about Israeli dominance. And they'll support it, no matter the cost. This isn't just foreign policy. It's moral bankruptcy. And it's happening while the world watches. While climate disasters multiply. While nuclear tensions rise. While the global order fractures. And still, the West chooses violence over peace, control over cooperation, empire over ethics. All of this, the geopolitical chaos, the climate collapse, the failure of leadership, the spread of nuclear weapons, the wars of aggression, adds up to one thing: extraordinary instability, and extraordinary danger. Because when no one agrees on rules, when no one trusts the institutions, when leaders are reckless, unstable, or absent, then miscalculation becomes inevitable. One wrong move, one false tweet from Trump, one escalation in Ukraine, one missile fired at Taiwan, and the whole system could ignite. And there will be no one left to stop it. Because the West isn't offering solutions. It's creating crises. In conclusion, Dr. Jeffrey Sachs gives us a rare and unfiltered look at the real state of the world today. Not the sanitized version on CNN. Not the propaganda from NATO briefings. But the truth. The US is losing control. Europe is collapsing. The climate is breaking. And Gaza is burning, with Western approval. And yet, the world is not helpless. The bricks are rising. Multipolarity is emerging. And for the first time in decades, there's a real alternative to Western domination. But peace won't come from bombs. It won't come from tariffs. It won't come from dictators or delusional leaders. It will come from cooperation, respect, and shared survival. Stay tuned for more analysis right here on The Informed Perspective. Until next time, stay informed and think critically.
Well, I've long argued that Iran should have gotten nuclear weapons, and they were foolish not to. Whether they will is another matter. I'm not sure on that count what's going to happen moving forward. There are all sorts of factors at play here that point in either direction. So one doesn't know for sure. But the incentives for them to get nuclear weapons are certainly great at this point in time. With regard to Iran and its strategic importance, the gentleman is exactly right. Iran is a country of great strategic importance. It matters a lot to China. It matters a lot to India. I would note that Iran, over the past few decades, and I'm choosing my words carefully here, decades, has gone to great lengths to improve relations with the United States. It's very important to understand that Iran does not want to have bad relations with the United States. And the United States has actually made some moves to improve relations with Iran. You saw this during the Clinton administration. But guess what happened in those cases? What happened is the lobby moved in at the behest of Israel, of course, and said that is unacceptable. And the principal reason that the United States has such terrible relations with Iran today is not because Iran and the United States don't have a vested interest in some sort of rapprochement, because they do. We have terrible relations with Iran in large part because of Israel. Israel basically dictates our strategy on Iran.